bust off those chains. It's a brand new day. It's not a dream. It is for real. We have Jubilee. PDP victory. Yeah. PDP victory. Tobagonians are born fighters. Carry the genes of our ancestors. You change hands so many times, mama. To get your freedom, you have to fight back. I see the many scars upon your back.
I have found that Tobago gets more done when Tobago votes for Tobago Central Party that does not have a base in Trinidad. Because Tobago has to mind Tobago's business now. We have not mind our business for the last 21 years. We're minding the business now.
PDP victory. PDP victory. Your enemies you shall see no more. Tobagonians will live better off. Better opportunities for the poor. Victimization it will be no more. The winds of change blowing your way. Bust off those chains. It's a brand new day. It's not a dream. It is.
This morning again.
Good morning.
I am Jamie Beard, and we have with us this morning Mr.
And I am yours truly, Dwayne Nurse. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's such a pleasure. So you all know we had such a fun-filled day yesterday, and we have a beautiful engagement for you all again today. As you know, it's PDP Mornings, and today we are definitely going to meet some of our candidates. So I hope you all are excited as much as we are, because again, we are going to have real meaningful conversations so that you get to know the candidates that are going to represent you. Dwayne?
Yes, this morning we have for you a very powerful man. I believe he's well known. He's a man of the cloth. He's a man of God. And I want to introduce to you, we are going to be having on set this morning Mr. Sonny Craig. I know he hails from your area. I know you might be much more familiar than I am with Mr. Craig in terms of how he operates in this area.
Of course. So I've known Mr. Craig for many years on a personal level as well. So it's actually quite a pleasure to have this intimate conversation to share with you guys this morning. But before we even get into that, we want to share a clip with you guys so that you could see, get to meet him from the meetings last night. So hold on and follow through.
Feel the power, Farley in your area. Feel the power, the Tobago fighter. Feel the power, Farley in your area. Feel the power, the Tobago fighter. Boom, election day we coming down. PDP we coming strong. We come to take over the tongue. And Farley sure to win this one. Every creed and every race. Time to find an equal place. Them other parties set away. Look how them destroy the place. Digest. PDP party, them is the best. Digest. When Farley work, he don't rest. Up tongue, them want to rest. The present government had the place in a mess. Election come out, do what is best. Tobago, you don't know you're blessed. Farley on the road to success. No other party can contest. Yes, PDP is the best. Digest. PDP party, them is the best. Digest. When Farley work, he don't rest. Feel the power, PDP.
Almighty God, we want to thank you for your love and grace. We want to thank you for all that you have done for us. We pray, Almighty God, that you will protect us today. We pray that your Holy Spirit will lead us today. We pray for no incidentalities at all. We pray that we will be able to file swiftly, smoothly, quickly, and be on our way, and that by the time we get to lunchtime, all 15 of our candidates will be duly nominated. We thank you for what you have done for us so far, and today begins the real campaign, but we need you to lead us. This we pray in the most holy and blessed name. Amen.
Now you get low cess. Vote for Fali, now you get low cess. Vote for Fali, now you get low cess.
And welcome back to PDP Mornings. It's Gail Jamie here again. And as we said earlier, we have a guest with us this morning, but we want to engage all the persons that are looking on and listening on Facebook, on Pulse, on Channel 5. We thank you all for being with us and sharing this morning. So this morning again, Mr. Sonny Craig representing Buku Mount Pleasant District. And we are so pleased to have him here this morning. How are you feeling, Mr. Craig?
Well, I always take a quote from Mr. Ho Choi Charles. I say, excellent and peaceful.
Well, great.
That is very good. That is very good. So we want to get right into it, Mr. Craig. Tell us, why politics?
All right. As an 11-year-old, I was a witness to the the Robinson, A.N. Robinson and Winston Murray revolution in Tobago.
Right.
I call it a revolution because those guys had come on the scene and changed a pattern that was in place for more than 20 years. And I watched Tobago grow. I watched the establishment of the Tobago House of Assembly. I looked at the gains that we got during those years. And of course, I was here for 2000, 2001, when Ho Choi Charles became a bit unpopular and the PNM came into power. I saw when they established themselves that they had an island council. They kept the Trinidad arm of the PNM out of it. So because they understood Tobagonians felt that sense of pride, we felt a sense of wanting to do things for ourselves. And they pandered that way, and they won. And I watched the 20 years pass, which is now going into 21, and I'm seeing a decline. And I always say there are many options when you are presented with a situation, and everyone can't do the same thing in dealing with the situation. In these elections, sometimes all you could do is vote. But there are those of us like myself, I consider myself to be one who could articulate, I could talk, I understand the issues, and I could present myself for leadership. And I grew up in the Adventist church. I was trained for leadership, and here I am. I think I could make a difference, and I'm doing the best that I could do for the island that I love. So here I am in the politics.
And that is something that is quite, that we admonish, because getting involved in politics is something that is quite testing, and you're a married man, you have children, you have grandchildren. So how has that transition been for you?
All right, well, the blessing in that context is that my last child is an adult. And I think I did a good job of training them, so they don't have to be my daily commitment to look after their every need, The most I could give them now is prayers and moral support and so on. So that freed me from one responsibility. And because that is what it is, my grandchildren then, because if I train my daughter well, my grandchildren wouldn't really need me 24/0. So my family life is basically a stable family life, and my wife is supporting me. She too shares my vision for Tobago. She is very outspoken on what she thinks could happen differently in Tobago. So I speak not by myself in the political arena. I speak from the perspective of my entire family. My mother, my surviving siblings, I have their support, so I'm comfortable. And
that is definitely good to know. It's good to know that there's this strong support system, because we know politics can be quite taxing.
Yes.
Right now you probably have no time to yourself, phone ringing off all the time. It is difficult. But guess what? Buku Mount Pleasant has a representative who is willing and able, who is competent, and we want to hear from you what are some of your strengths that you bring to the table that would allow you to build on the team and build on the vision for Tobago,
Well, take it from the beginning. I was born in Buku. I went to Buku Point Government School. I went on to high school from there, and Buku Point became the place that I spent my jolly time, my hobby time. I love swimming, and as a child also, I went to the Seventh-day Adventist Church at Mount Pleasant. Then I moved on to the church at Canaan, and while in Canaan, I think I spent most of my adult life in the Canaan community. So when you look at the electoral district, I think I'm the best person because I understand the people, I witness their struggles, I see their needs, and I think that I could do well for them. I'm not easily pushed around because I've acquired my age. My gray is significant. I'm a big man.
You see that?
Yeah, so we very much respect that.
Yeah, so the whole idea of leading this particular electoral district, I think it's a win-win for the people in Buku Mount Pleasant. I think the EBC did a wrong by not including Canaan in the name of the electoral district, because maybe 80% of Canaan is part of the electoral district. Correct. And Canaan is a major village in the Tobago landscape.
It is.
So I'm going to call it by its rightful name, Buku Mount Pleasant Canaan.
Yes. Excellent.
Yes. So I think I fit right in as the best person for the job.
Yes, and you spoke earlier about the support system that you so have, which is very good, and your stable family. Now, I want to bring up the philosophy underpinnings of this organization to which you now belong. What part of that philosophy so resonates with you, and how do you see it? Is there any stark difference to that of the philosophies, the philosophical underpinnings of the members opposite?
Well, the philosophies of the members opposite, if I could start there, I do not know it per se to say I made it a study, but the study I've made of it is by their performance.
Right.
Right?
Right, and that is in premise of my question.
Yes. Yeah. And the PDP has made it clear, people before politics.
Right.
And that statement in itself is a win-win for the average person on the ground. I was saying in one of the meetings last night, I said, every single person should be given an opportunity to succeed in life. There are those of us who were born into what you might call the ideal home.
Right.
And as a consequence, we have been able to take advantage of all the opportunities available.
Right.
And we have grown in the society. We might have made it onto university and so on. There are those of us who, for one reason or the other, did not get those opportunities. And many of these people end up what we call slipping through the cracks. I don't support that.
And there's nothing to catch them.
Yeah, nothing to catch them. So I'm of the view that everybody could make a difference, could be a success, or at least should be offered an opportunity. I was telling Mount Pleasant last night, I became a mason as a big man. I learned a trade as a big man. And I learned it because at one point, well, I love construction. And so when I'm on a job and I watch a mason laying brick, I might say, give me that shovel, I feel I could do that. And he will say, try your hand.
I know that feeling.
You know that feeling? Yeah. And so we have grown in. I've grown into a mason. I consider myself a mason, except for putting down tiles. I still need to do some training there. Well. but all in all, this is the situation we find ourselves in our electoral district. I believe everybody could be given a fair chance to make it. Yeah.
And when you in your experience walking around, meeting the people, we know in that community in particular there is this generational gap. How are you going to reach out to the younger population, and what is the motivation for them? Because we know the children are the future.
Yes.
And the youths, in fact, are so talented and so willing to be part of the change.
Yes.
So how are you going to meet out to them? How are you going to...
All right, but I have begun the process. It's a process that demands direct communication. Reaching out to different people of different age groups starts with you. I mean, like, are you somebody who could be
relatable?
Are you relatable? Could people speak to you? Anybody? And I think I'm blessed with that. Now, the villages in my electoral district are famous for certain activities, and these activities are age-old activities. once we could get the youth involved in reviewing it and looking at putting maybe a fresh face on it, and I'm using fresh face in the right context, and put a fresh face on it. So, for example, all the goat race in Tobago happens in this electoral district. Wow. And I should throw in here, because as I traverse the district, I am meeting people with ideas, and I'm marrying these ideas to what I might have in mind.
Right.
And coincidentally, when I looked at the PDP plan out of January, we had the representative at that time sharing similar ideas.
Right.
So we see, maybe they say great minds think alike, and we could clearly see that this is what the community needs, and these ideas would resonate with the young people.
Right.
For example, as I said, all the goat race comes through that area. Although Canaan doesn't have a goat race, a lot of the goat owners live in Canaan, train their goats in Canaan, and they go to Mount Pleasant to race and Buko. So then we have there already something that the older generation started, and we have the young people running with it.
Right.
And now, if we give it the right branding, you would find, just as in some cultures, the children look up to the heroes before, we could give it that branding. But one of the things that I believe is missing is frequency and the rock star status that goes along with sports stars.
Right.
If we keep it with a certain look, as though it's something reserved for a certain group in the society.
Right, it's indigenous to that.
It's indigenous.
Right.
But we could spread it, because by marketing, we could spread it to the other groups. So young people could be in, you shouldn't be in Buko Primary School and not know who are the great sportsmen of the community, even in goat race.
Makes sense.
Yes, football, cricket, goat race.
Right.
They should all be mentioned under the same umbrella as people who did well in our community.
Right.
So then, it's in that context, that's just one example. But if you look at the larger civilizations, like the first world countries, quote unquote first world countries, you will find the little children at the baseball games, and daddy catching the ball and giving it to them, and you see these children are fired up.
Right.
So by the time they meet 15, 16, they want to get into the program.
Right.
And so whatever we promote and we choose to preserve in our communities, once we get the children involved at the right level, I think we have continuity, and I think we'll be onto something good.
Wow. And I really love that. I really do love that. No, I listened to a piece of your speech last night. Very well done, by the way. Very passionate.
Thank you.
One thing that really stood out to me is the fact that you mentioned some of the issues that might have affected you to some extent, relating to the politicking, and what we would call the Pekong during this period.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, do you approve of the culture of politics here? And given that you have an opportunity to represent, how would you do it differently? How would you do it differently, but not lose the sense of the culture, in terms of keeping the respect and everything?
Well, I am being fed with information about those on the other side.
Right.
And I'm being asked, you could use this.
Right.
You could use this.
Right.
Very degrading information.
Right.
I cannot verify if it's true, but whether it's true or not, I will not use it.
Might I ask why quickly?
Yeah?
Might I ask?
Well, I wasn't trained that way. It's not part of my principal sets. It's not part of who I am. The idea of the elections is not to degrade or to deface anybody. And one of the things I hold dearly is that nobody comes on their own.
Right.
Everybody is connected to a network.
Correct.
So if I put the worst things about you out in the public, though it might be true, you have parents that might have to hang their head when they walk.
Right.
If you have children, you might have siblings.
Right.
So then you cannot necessarily have a conversation about somebody and not understanding that there's a spin-off effect.
Exactly.
So as I speak here, my mother is alive, praise God.
Amen.
And
lucky,
lucky
you.
Well, boy, that's my blessing.
Yeah.
So in the politicking, I don't know, and I cannot swear who are the ones behind, because I've seen some things about myself I didn't know out there, you know, information about me that's being circulated. And in the context of our politics, I think it's good, because it has to be somebody scared to stoop that low, to try to undermine me and my reputation. So it's out there, and it's unfortunate. I do not think we need this in the politics. This is what this by itself could destroy any civilization. So what we have happening is this: we have an island that has been living in the shadows for a very long time. I do not subscribe to the description of the country as a twin island state. I see it as a mother and daughter dependency.
Based on its current arrangement.
Based on its current
operation.
Right. I do not support any sisterhood, not like that. I say partners. We should be running side by side. And in the event of anything extreme or anything untoward, Tobago must be in a position to render assistance to Trinidad.
Correct.
Right? So then that's how I'm hoping it could develop. And if we think as a population that way, we will understand that even coming to this point, we will need to bring our best people. There are people who might be better qualified for this job than me, but they will never present themselves because they used to smoke weed. They will never present themselves because
they have something
in the
some impediment.
Yes. And although it might be former, it might be past, they might have dealt with it, but just the fact that it might be brought up again, just because this particular party is so desperate to stay in power or to gain power, we are not getting the best out of the society. So the politics has to change, and I feel it could change with education. I'm convinced that political studies should be done from an early age. The truth, it's so strange because I hope I'm talking too much. You know, I came to talk. It is so strange that I'm sharing some Tobago history with some of my constituents, and they never knew that. Because we don't teach it, because it depends on who's in power. PDP is in power. Would we teach the children what Eric Williams did? Was it a good thing? Would we teach them if Orville London did something good? You know? PNM is in power. Would they tell the Robinson story the way it was done?
It should be said.
It should be taught. Murray. Because recently I heard one of the candidates speaking about the great political leaders of Tobago history. Right? And they mentioned Rowley, they mentioned London, they mentioned Kelvin Charles, and they're coming up. And a child would listen and believe that there was no Jeff Davidson.
That's where it began.
There was no Lennox Denoon. There was no Robinson Murray and Ho Choi Charles.
Big art.
So there is a need for education, and not just education. It must be an objective, balanced approach. And I believe that that's where we begin to deal with that problem.
And I see Sister Jamie is so proud of the utterances here.
Well,
you know, and it's heartfelt.
She's one of my tutors.
But you see, it's quite important that the focus is really the youth and really transitioning from the miseducation. And it's a beautiful thing for us to be having that type of conversation when the conflict itself is at the source of the realm of you know, not knowing your identity. And the fact that you would have been able to witness the transition over time is off of experience, off of observation, which is necessary. And the youth in particular have lost faith in the political system because of what they have observed. So now the team is tasked now with re-educating, re-empowering, rebranding who we are as a people. And so it's a really difficult task, in fact. So we are definitely proud of the fact that we have Tobagonians that are willing to take on that weight on their back. And I can tell you from experience, it is not easy.
No, it's not.
Especially with the dirty politics that been, you know. So it's applaudable that the direction is not about the nasty throwing at the words and the pick on. Although social media will show a whole different impression, but on the ground is about education.
But one thing to note, and I'm noticing that people are not buying the dirty talk. A lot of people have made up their minds, and they're not necessarily buying into that because they know where it comes from. It comes from a posture of desperation. And I'm happy that when I'm talking to people, regardless of what you say, people saying it's time for a change. And so that's what's happening.
I just wanted to posit though that it was really heartfelt when you delve into the picong and the dirtiness of the politics, and I want to admonition even those on the other side, right? Even those that support us or the IDA, that let us move away from that culture where we have to bring somebody down to climb up. I mean, yes, the season is ripe for something like that. Let's make the jokes, but let us remember that there are lives after.
Yeah.
Because given
yes.
the chance, you need to represent your area. You have to also represent
all people.
Mr. Dennis as well, who's your opponent at the current.
Yes.
At the current. How would you feel if you won on the premise that you brought him down and you have to go and represent him today?
Yes.
And I think we need to get back to the Tobago culture, and I really am thankful that you are
Yeah.
championing that at the moment.
Yeah, man. Let me deal with the issues ahead, and I think we could get it.
Yeah.
Before we break, I have one question that is daunting. We have been hearing on the ground from Watson, from Farley, about this projection of $10 million that the party intends to put into the communities.
Yeah.
And as you know, Buku Mount Pleasant was a striving tourism.
Right,
and you've
right.
seen now the death
Yeah.
of that space. And this have nothing to do with COVID. This is before COVID.
Right.
We had the Sunday school, which used to be something booming. We had the Easter, we had the goat race. We want to know from you exactly how this $10 billion intend to really lift the community, especially since it's going back into the community.
All right. Let me do some hand motion. There's no simile me, right? I'm trying to get my thoughts together, right?
When I say so, with martial arts, do it me, I'm good.
No, well, $10 million in a community would not just be dished out like that. This is $10 million. This is taxpayers' money. But what the idea is, like, if I were to do a case in point for Buku Point, right, or the electoral district, one of the things we're promoting is a home-based tourism program, where we could convert our homes or add to our homes 5-star quality spaces. Wow. And I say 5-star because there's 3-star right up, there's 1-star. But
up to 7 stars, I believe.
Well, look, yes, but sometimes 5 was the ultimate.
Right.
No, we got to 7.
We got to 7.
Yeah.
So let me take, for example, you do that in your home. You have the space, you do it. Or you want to do an additional business. Everything has to work in tandem in the community. So in Buku Point, we found the reef in Buku Point. We brought reef business to Tobago.
Correct.
But, so for it to be so, it is now mostly coming out of Storby and Pigeon Point. We are not saying to hinder that trade, but we are saying to expand the trade, expand it, bring it back to Buku. So we have all these guest spaces in Buku. And they, by extension, as part of staying in Buku, the reef tours come on board. So we have a village that has a great percentage of tourists or guests. Reef tours are part of it. Now we don't have enough boats because we have to reestablish that. In Buku already there's a boat building facility. Right. How about we expand that boat building facility to do reef boats, to do fishing boats, and some of the fishing boats now are limited in the sense that they could only go out maybe for 24 hours maximum. You have a boat building facility, you have the specs, it is not rocket science. You adjust your facility, your new facility, to do bigger boats. You do boats that could spend 7 days, 2 weeks at sea. They bring in much more fish. That fish now becomes part of a new business again. The business now is processing of fish, smoked fish, dry fish, salted fish, fish for export. If you follow me back to the guest room, you realize how many jobs were created. Because if the THA is partnering with you to assist you in bringing your living quarters into something better, you get more curb appeal. When you walk the streets now, instead of having broken down ruins as homes, we have partnered with you and we have brought your property up to a certain standard. You have guests, the guests are making money off of the reef trade, and so on. So it's a whole network. The $10 million, I don't want people to walk away thinking that we're going to walk through the village and share $10 million. No. We're going to have a structure, we're going to do an assessment of what are the best projects to engage ourselves in, and from that perspective, then we're going to pump the money in the community. The people in the community, the masons, the carpenters, and those who live there would be the ones who would actually be doing the projects.
Right. I want to thank you so much for being here, Mr. Craig. And unfortunately, this is the end of your interview.
Well,
but you did a very well job, and I want to encourage you to continue doing the same.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here with us this morning.
It's
I mean, it's not even about us. It's about the viewers being able to hear directly from you, your intentions, connecting with you, hearing your passion, hearing your philosophy, and it is necessary. Because they need to know exactly who they're getting. They need to see the vision and traverse that vision with you. So thank you so much for being so eloquent. Next time when we come back, I hope that you'll be more, relax and we could laugh and it can be, I don't know if you were going on this morning.
I rushed to shave all kinds of things. You see all my shaving powder on me.
You see? So next time we will
another breakdown with the van too.
You see? But you're still here. So you're a man of strength.
Yes.
So Tobago, as you would have heard and seen, this is Mr. Sonny Craig, the candidate for Buku Mount Pleasant area, who we are well pleased. So stay tuned as we come back and we share with you some more.
Tobago, we bless. I tell you, we bless. Say we bless. Tobago, we bless. You don't know the rest. PDP for the win.
PDP victory. The road now run, the journey rough. We foot strong and our we skin tough. So many that have been shown at us. Real Spartans never give up. The winds of change blowing your way. Bust off those chains. It's a brand new day. It's not a dream. It is for real. You have to believe. PDP victory, yeah. PDP victory. Tobagonians are born fighters, carry the genes of our ancestors. You change hands so many times, mama. To get your freedom, you have to fight back. I see the many scars upon your back.
I have found that Tobago gets more done when Tobago votes for a Tobago-centric party that does not have a base in Trinidad. Because Tobago has to mind Tobago's business now. We have not mind our business for the last 21 years. We're minding the business now.
You have to believe. PDP victory, yeah. PDP victory. Your enemies you shall see no more. Tobagonians will live better off. Better opportunities for the poor. Victimization it will be no more. The winds of change blowing your way. Bust off those chains. It's a brand new day. It's not a dream. It is.
And welcome back, Tobago, to PDP Mornings. You just would have missed Mr. Sonny Craig. And as you know, he would have shared at length who he is as a person, his vision, his ideas. And it was such a pleasure having that type of conversation. But now we also have a surprise for you guys. We have Mr. Wayne Wasp Clark, the one and only, representing and the candidate for Lambo Lowland. So, Mr. Clark, good morning.
Good morning, Tobago, good morning, Trinidad, and good morning, the worldwide listening audience. Good morning.
Good morning to you, sir.
Morning, sir.
Yeah, so the wasp, is it that you sting like a bee, or is it that you're busy, or what is it?
Well, it depends on my interaction with the individual. Sometimes situations require stinging, sometimes situations require relaxing, sometimes situations require
fleeing.
Different things.
Like that smile that you're giving us right now, right?
All right. Well, we know you as the sweet talker, the sweet talk man, the man with all the words. So we want to welcome you this morning. How has it been for you? Because for you, this is your second or stint at the
Third.
the third stint at
stint,
the
yes.
polls. How has the journey been for you?
Well, I never read too much into it. The journey has always been just the journey of life.
Right.
So
you embrace it
nothing
all.
good.
Right.
That's correct.
Right. So would you say that it is something that would have made you, or is something that is making you into something that you are destined to be? Because if you look at your journey, many would have given up a long time ago. What would you say accounts for your resilience? Because it's your third stint.
Well, you watch at the situation, you watch at life.
Right.
Look at the Tobago bill. He didn't get passed the first time. He didn't get passed the second time. What should we do? Give up?
I don't think so.
A man never fail. A man gives up trying.
Right.
And
right.
I'm not one to give up trying.
Right.
If I think there's a need for something in a particular situation, I will lobby until it's done. And that's my journey.
Right.
Well, Mr. Clark, you have been a part and parcel of the PDP from inception. So you were one of the first representatives. So this is, as you know, you're not new to this thing. So you would have been able to witness the change, witness the growth, witness the transformation. Share with us some of the things that you would have noticed or admire from where the party was to where it is now.
Well, the party is sort of similar to a child, a living being, and you grow, you're born, you grow, nothing grow without changes. And as we continue to experience changes, then we continue to witness, further growth of the party.
Right.
Sometimes when you're into something new, you just go in, sometimes you're not even in control. But as you get older into it, you get to understand what you're into, then you gradually take control. You didn't get a driver's license as a child. You were a passenger first before you become a driver, so you had time to observe things. And then you could go and be tutored.
Right.
So it's something very similar.
All right. So it's getting better and better with time, through observation, through experience, through interaction.
Well, I wouldn't say get better with time. That's a light way of describing it. It gets better with being on the job. It gets better with doing it over and over and over again. You're doing something over and over, you will have changes. You will have a better understanding which is responsible for the changes. So in other words, you get more in control. It's sort of transitioning from the passenger to the driver.
All right, excellent, excellent.
Right. So Mr. Clark, you are a community man, as we have been hearing from since inception. Tell us, where did it all begin for you? Just remind the world and Tobago by extension, where did it really begin for you?
Well, it began a long way back. I came from a broken home. And actually I never understand what I was going through, and probably till I was about 30 years.
Wow.
And the original incident came about when I was about 9. So it was a long time to be sort of like in the wilderness.
Right.
But the more you become, understanding of your own situation, and the more you traverse through life is a journey. And you start seeing people that have similar situations like you.
Right.
So automatically I think it was, it was a natural fit that I could relate to this. So hence the reason why not only decided to get involved in politics. Politics to me was just an expansion of my services.
Right.
I choose to get involved firstly with the schools in the community, then it spread,
Right.
So it's about understanding your situation, giving back and guiding those who are now entering that situation, because 90% of the children you see now come from a single family, single parenting, and out of that 90% of that is mothers. And it's difficult because, A woman can't teach a boy to be a man.
That is so true.
A man can't teach a girl to be a woman. A man didn't make a child by himself, and a woman didn't make a child by herself. So, you know, we just need to. It's one of the times that I agree to toe the line. God put a man and a woman to make a child. A man and a woman should raise that child. Stay together, raise that child, and with the child having the support from both sides, the understanding from both sides, I think they will have a better product as an adult.
So you're saying that your community contribution, being a community man, you know, comes from you seeing the need for many of those young children to kind of fill that gap for them where they might be missing fathers and broken homes because of your experience as a child?
Well, yes, in a way, because what happened is that it was just natural. I just saw myself in these children. And knowing what that did to me, I mean, parents, I appeal to parents out there, think twice. I was just dropping the ball and running and saying, if this ain't working, I'll go somewhere else. Once children become involved, you need to think twice about your life, about the situation. You need to look at what it will do to them instead of just thinking about yourself. Sometimes it's hard for any relationship to work, and this doesn't only mean a emotional relationship. It doesn't only mean being in a marriage or whatever. For anything to work, there will be differences, and it's sort of a test of your ability to come to common ground, find common ground with it. So basically, you know, I always keep, at one point in time, I was at 6 preschools. So, and I also do a little stint on Radio Tambourine. I had to say thanks to the Radio Tambourine family, George Leacock, for really taking me and, you know, giving me the opportunity to expand my journey. You know, so, for instance, sometimes on a Friday, I go to work, come back, I get to the radio station. When I finish with the radio station, I get to my first school, and then the second school, then the third school. And on Friday evening, the most I could do most times after is just go home, sit on the bed. Sometimes I wake up in the same position. Friday is my most exhausting day. So, you know, the journey has been good for me, and it didn't require much effort from me to get involved in politics, because it was always one of giving in my life, serving, and I just see politics as an expansion of that service. So it really wasn't something that required much effort. It just required me, you know, keep being who I am, you know, stay grounded, be yourself.
Well, I want to get into the groundwork in terms of the actual being in the community, the actual traversing the space and understanding the dynamics of what is taking place within this community, because it's a subset of Tobago. So share with us from your experience, because now you have lowlands as well. So it's Lambo Lowlands. Share with us your experience, things that you would have recognized, noticed within this space that needs urgent attention, even whether it's from what persons may have said or from your own observation.
Well, it's a combination. You know, sometimes you traverse an area, you're back and forth in an area, but you're not deep into the area. So when you get deep into the area for whatever purpose, you see a whole different world, you know. And you're going through lowlands. I mean, Tobago in generally, all the problems sort of related. You know, because Tobago is a small community. Compared to some bigger countries, Tobago is just a neighborhood. And so to me, it's easier at times to deal with situations in a small place like that, because it doesn't require much different penning out. You know, Charlottesville, Crown Point sometimes has the same problem. So you don't require you having a model for Charlottesville and one for Crown Point. And that's one of the advantages you have of governing a small area, because most time the problems are sort of related.
So what are some of those problems that they
All right.
could pinpoint?
For instance, we have not only throughout Lowlands Lambo, but you know, and that entails a part of Canaan to it also can be, right? You generally you walk about, you find the young people telling you, contrary to popular belief that Tobagonians lazy, you know, and whatever. You hear they ask you for work. They didn't even ask you for something free. They asked you for work. So right away you realize that you're dealing with people who still have an interest in working, right? It's just about now facilitating them for them to be able to work, earn their living, and you know, live their life. The community of itself has major problems in terms of sometimes I don't know how these people make out. You go into some of these neighborhoods that you wouldn't see from the main, and drainage, massive problem. Also, Canaan share that same thing, massive. I wonder, you know, talking to some of the people, they say, well, 5:30 you need to lock up else you're going to have a problem whole night.
Mosquitoes.
Right? And
waterlogged areas.
While I'm not an engineer, I'm saying that is why we have people who are qualified in these areas. So you have to get with them and there has to be a solution. They have to come up with a solution. You know, so these are things that has to be, in my opinion, has to be addressed speedily. Because a man, a woman, a people can't be their true self unless they're comfortable.
Correct.
You know, it brings me back to coaching. You know, I coach football. That's my main thing. And volunteer at quite a lot of schools. And I was at this secondary school once where when we have morning sessions, you have major problems with the children to focus, to get anything done. It will frustrate you to the point that you want to give up. But then this is where my upbringing came into being. I remember my situation at that time. And I start having dialogue with them. I start going to some of them homes and pick them up and bring them to school. And then you realize over 80% of the children come to school without breakfast. So most of the morning, even in the classroom, these children will be the teacher teaching with their eyes on the clock because they are interested in lunchtime. And it was even more difficult in sports to ask them. I mean, you can't push a hungry man. You can't ask a car without fuel to go up the hill.
Agreed, eh?
And these are the things that sometimes when you're dealing with people, your own experiences help you because you could reflect. When you see a problem, first when you detect a problem, you try to get to the root of the problem, find out why it is the, you know, and because of your experience, sometimes you could just click and say, I know what's causing that.
It's a reflection of yourself you're seeing all the time.
So that's why, for me, it has been a little more tolerable to deal with. It wasn't something new and it wasn't something I have to
adjust to.
Wonder about.
You could connect with it. You connect to the people.
So many times in some of these schools, you know, I go out of the way, prepare meals, and get the whole football team together. You carry meals and you sit and have a meal like a family. Because you see, sometimes development has its ups, but it also has its downs. And growth, development is growth. And if you don't control growth, then it presents a bigger problem for you. So, for instance, when everybody used to live, I grew up in a 2-bedroom house and my parents had 10 children. And your mommy and daddy in one room, so you know what's going on in the next room. Then the house got another room. It was a little more tolerable, but basically for today, you see, even a parent who, you aren't rich, but you're building a house and you're trying to make every child have a room. That might have its advantages, but it also has its disadvantages because what happens is, sometimes now you see a child come out, take his food and go on in the room and eat. It takes away when the whole family used to sit. If the table couldn't hold everybody, you, the smaller one, sit on the ground. Hey, mother tell you, open your leg. You put the food there and you sit down and eat. The point was that everybody was eating together. But with the development and with this stepping up and everybody has a room, sometimes it take away from that. And these are the things that the challenge the parent face It's how to keep the family together, how to keep the family doing things together. So it's similar with the Tobago landscape. When we stray from the way we were cultured,
norms,
then if you didn't have something to hold on to immediately, then you find yourself lost. And it seems like Tobago has been lost for a long time. And, you know, sort of looking for that transitioning period. You know, and being in the situation, sometimes the politics might provide an answer, sometimes it don't. You know, so the soberness of you as an individual, you need to carry that on to whatever avenue you traverse in life. And if you could maintain it, then the field that you transition into stands a better chance of being up and sober.
And
right. So
adding context to this space. I really appreciate what you're saying. And I appreciate it from the context of an individual, a mother, a wife, even in terms of the psychological mindset or upbringing of a country, because the reality is what you're speaking of there is really identity. And that is something that is so important now more than ever. And when we look at the context of where we are, where we were and where we're going, there is this gap, there is this disconnect. So it's quite important for you, being someone presenting yourself as a candidate in the political forum, to be able to recognize and be able to notice this importance, the simple things where we have left, we have gone a distance from who we are as a people, because the family life in general has definitely taken a nosedive. We have had more. Right now we have the issue of data and computers. We have children growing up on tablets. We even have children nowadays speaking more like Americans than they are than a Tobagonian. And a lot of people don't see the issue in it, but they're not realizing the fact that we are losing who we are, and we have globalization. So now we are being attacked. So I'm so grateful that you were able to pinpoint it in such simple words, and able to really address it as a next, as a representative, or who is vying for the position to lead, because you get the bigger picture. So I really appreciate that.
And it's on that premise I have this question for you. It's a two-part question. One, do you think that the previous administrations and the current administrations did or is doing enough for the issues that you speak of in terms of the socialization of these young children, right? And given that you are given the opportunity to represent these people, what would you do under the PDP administration to ensure that these gaps are filled, especially being that you are the sportsman?
Well, first is a work in progress, and I don't like to focus too much on the administration, the other side, although we are living in a time where they are responsible for governance. But I think that sometimes we as a people let go our position where governance is concerned, because it's just not, if you just expect the politicians, the policymakers, whoever, to do everything, then it means you have to take some of the blame for not holding up to your responsibility. You have a responsibility.
Which is?
And if you as a person, an individual, don't know what your duty is, then it's more difficult for the person who to govern you, to look over you. If you didn't instill in your children to sweep the yard on morning, then the yard will get dirty and bushy. And it brings a burden on you as a parent to have to do it while the children lie loose. So I'm saying that the past administration, it is what it is. We see what has been done. It's easy to be critical from the outside, but then again, you had to be, yes, you could be critical, but you also have to have some way of saying, well, yes, it's not just pulling you down for doing that, but if we could try it this way, maybe we could have a different result. So, you know, it never was like, for me, it was never just pulling down the regime. I mean, there are some things that mightn't be the way you want it, might be done ridiculous or reckless, but I'm saying that sometimes our people could just be who they are. And sometimes we have to understand that nothing grow without changes, and nothing grow without changes. And somebody who has been performing for 20 years and it just didn't get right, it could very well mean that they have done all that they can. So calmly, honestly, and just cool, say, well, I did all that I can and it wasn't enough.
I can't do anymore, I agree. Yeah.
But given the politics we have, that wouldn't happen. Yeah. So it takes a different regime to say, well, thank you, and we'll take it from here.
Yes, yes, thank you
and
so
that's
much.
A representation. That's what the PDP represents.
Yes.
It's not to bash them. It's not. It's just saying that, okay, we thank you for what you have done. We think it could have been done a little better, but your strongest words are your action. So, all right, I'm going to go in and show you now this is what could have been done. Still will dialogue with you because, for instance, there were area representatives in my district before. I wouldn't fight no war with them. There might pretty well be something that I am at a loss with and I could go to them. So I think even being on the different sides of politics, sometimes we still have to communicate, collaborate, and hope that you strike a civilized relationship that you could draw even the man that failed or didn't succeed immediately. You could learn from him. People ask me, why you going a third time? Why you this? How you thinking about it? I say, well, really, I believe there's a God, first about it. And God didn't deny me. He just delayed. He just delayed. And because I'm at a position now where I could understand things a little better, a little clearer, I think now he's saying, well, look, the door's open. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Run with it.
And that's where I stand. That's my belief.
And the thing about it is that, from what I'm gathering, is that you're saying that Tobago is not losing anything by voting differently. You're saying that Tobago is now gaining the opportunity for us to work hand in hand where we will continue to grow together. So there's no division, there's no segregation. It's just the reality that we need to get things done. And we need to position ourselves collectively to work hand in hand to get it done.
Yes, and it's difficult with our political culture to be that mature. Unfortunately, we're not there yet. People, even this morning, I coming up the road, I have on a shoe that looks red. But why are you wearing that? I say, hey, our money is my money and I buy it.
I have on a red dress.
So at the end of the day, we have to get away from that sort of immaturity. And we need to be able to call a spade, you know what I mean? The regime now didn't do everything bad. But they might have done more misunderstanding more than anything else. So it's not to say, well, bash them, gracefully say, well, okay, I'm gonna, you give somebody a driver your car. And they ain't driving too reckless, but they ain't driving too correct either. So, you're saying, well, I know me car more than anything else. So, here what? All right, I got to drive from here. So, it's sort of like the PDP saying, all right, we'll drive from here.
Thank you, but we will take over from here.
So,
good.
So we want to thank you for that, brother Clark. You definitely embody where Tobago should be in its politics, in its communities, in the small villages, and in the homes, right? And I want to thank you for being here. The pleasure was ours to have you this morning, but unfortunately, we have come to the end of this interview for today. So I hope to have you again, and I wish you all the best of luck in your political journey.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure sharing space with you, As. You've always been the one that have so much wisdom and analogies and context that could really bring people to this a place of really understanding and getting knowledge at the same time. So again, it was a pleasure sharing space with you. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning, and we look forward to many more interviews. We look forward to engaging with you again. So you have a blessed day.
Will do, and thank you for being here. It was a pleasure.
And thank you, listeners. Stay tuned.
So Tobago, you all would have met and sat with Sonny Craig. You would have also met and sat with Mr. Wasp, and the ball is in your court. And the reality is that they are now saying to you that I am presenting myself to you only because I see the growth that Tobago needs, and I want to be part and parcel of it. And that the engagement is really about you. It's really about you, Tobago, coming on board, recognizing your power, recognizing your strength, claiming it, and ensuring that you are part of the conversation. And, you know, Dwayne, this morning has actually been quite informative.
Yes, yes.
And the reality is the depth of conversation that they have been having, that Wasp and Sonny have been having with us, really speaks to the type of knowledge that is circulating on the ground. It speaks to the depth of the people that exist here. And more now than ever, we are realizing that Tobagonians are great people. So we thank you again, and we see you tomorrow morning at 8:30 to 9:30 for PDP Mornings with Jamie and
Dwayne.
Have a blessed one, guys.
This year we go in. Make sure and go stamp your name. When last you feeling need to come camping hard.